All right, so first question, I'm going to open, not new, we want open. What am I doing? Desktop. There we go. Yes, okay. So Aaron's question is, we're creating callouts, right? We're creating wall sections, we're creating overall sections, we're creating wall sections, we're creating details, and how do you sort of keep those things clean, right? Because ultimately you would come in here if you wanted to create a wall detail, right? You would go to view, you would go to callouts, you go to rectangle. Here's how I'm going to create my wall section. Okay, so we have our callout. Great. And then we're going to click on that, and we have our wall section here. I'm going to turn off my crop region, and we're going to create some details. So I'll use my callout again, right? Maybe this is one of my details, and here's another one of my details, and we've got this one up. We'll do this right there. Okay. All right, so we have our details here, and they look great. And you're thinking, well, you know, this is great, but things are going to start getting cluttered. We have these call outs, but I'm also going to be calling out windows and doors and different things on this wall section, right? I think maybe without getting into a whole lot of detail on actual construction of plans, I guess, right? The general rule is that if you have a call out like this, right, if you have an enlarged portion showing or annotated here, you leave the annotation for that object to that call out area, right? So what that means is on this overall building section, right, I'm going to call out things, you know, maybe like the doors, I'm going to call out these walls, I'm going to call out stuff over here, whatever else I'm going to note, right? But anything within this call out region, there's not going to be any annotation in there, okay? When I click on here and I get to this level, I'm going to call out things that are not within these bubbles, right? So I'll probably have a wall tag. If there's a window well, I'll call out the window well, you know, but I'm going to call out and tag things that are not within these areas, right? So I'll come in here. Let me just, here's a quick leader, right? So in here I would come in and I would call out whatever that is, right? This looks, ooh, it's terrible. It hurts my eyes, right? We'll make it quick though. Ooh, my Anna.
Where did leader come from?
Don't worry, we'll get there. Don't worry. Young.
AutoCAD sheet, tell me.
Young grasshopper. Okay, my annotation crop is not, did I talk about that? Annotation crop? Yeah, okay. Right, so I come in here and I start calling things out, but I'm going to call out kind of around those, right? I'll add tags, I'll add window markers, I'll add wall tags, different things like that. And then you're thinking, well, there's still a lot of information in here. Well, when I get to, you know, this detail level, then I start adding more detail, right? So we kind of, to keep it clean, we don't add detail in those areas. We leave it for the enlarged portion to add the detail. Is that the question you were asking?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, and it keeps it clean, like on your floor plan, right? So where was our main level floor plan, right? We have this main level floor plan, right? That doesn't make sense to show that we have that tag, right? And it's way too big, and it you know, it clutters everything up, right? So that wouldn't be shown there. But when I get to this level, do you see it's a, you know, larger scale, and I can see things, and then that tag fits in there a lot better. Yeah. All right. Any other questions on anything else before we get going with our title block and sheets today? Good, good. Okay. I'm slowly working through grading everything, right? And it looks good. Everybody's doing well. There was only one issue. Oh, okay. We won't talk about it today. A specific issue with somebody. Okay. All right. So let's talk about our sheets, and let's talk about how we talked about creating sheets. We know how to create them. I'll go over that one more time. We talked about, you know, title blocks and all that good stuff. I want to get a little bit more into title blocks and how to customize your title blocks so that they don't look like out of the box. Yep.
So that sheet's assignment was due to the 9th?
I'm going to change it. Don't worry. Yeah, sorry guys. Sorry. It's been a week. I'm going to change that. We'll give you another week on that so that you can finish that up. Okay. All right, so let's go back over here to our sheets. Okay. So our sheets are down here, obviously, and if I click on here, I can see this sheet here. And a sheet consists of, you know, a view of our model, right? So up here, this is our main level dimension plan, okay? And here's our main level dimension plan. I pulled it over here onto the sheet, okay? What's really nice about that is with that view comes its view name, the scale, right? The number of the detail on it. We have this view tag, of course, which is great. We can place more than one view on a sheet, right, which is great. So I've got my enlarged plan over here, and it's on the same sheet as this plan here. Okay. We also have our title block here. And the title block is what's considered a family. It's an annotation family, okay? And what's really great about this annotation family is that it has inherent information built into it that corresponds from one sheet to another, right? And what that means is that if I, you know, come in here and I change this from, you know, Shelley Bodily to S Bodily, enter, right? Because I've built in some specific information into this title block, when I go to a different sheet, click, right? It knows that that information needs to change from sheet to sheet, right? So that says S Bodily right there. Now there are some things that need to not change from sheet to sheet, right? And then there are some things that that not only don't need to change from sheet to sheet, but don't even really need to be altered from our Revit model, right? It's just kind of standalone stuff. So standalone things in a title block that don't need to be edited inside of a Revit model, or it's really going to be the design of the title block itself, right? So like these outlines, the logo here, maybe information that says, and not the actual information itself, but maybe where it says consultant, address, phone, fax, email, that's kind of standalone text that stays there, and then over here you put information, you know, that maybe changes or maybe you don't. We have revision schedules. I guess I'm going to step back a little bit because I was talking about things that don't change in here. But really the design of the title block is not going to change, okay? So some of it's going to be text, some of it's going to be a logo, some of it's just going to be lines, okay? And there's going to be stuff that changes, like, you know, the scale or the sheet number or who checked it or who the author was or, you know, the name of the project or whatever, okay? And so I want to show you today how to deal with that, right? With the intent that you're going to take your title blocks for your projects and customize them. That's this week's assignment, right? So I'm going to show you today how to edit the title block family and to change it so that you can design it to fit whatever you want it to fit for you, okay? Another thing that you may end up customizing is maybe the size of your title block, okay? So we'll talk about that as well. But I guess what we'll start with, right, is the idea that a title block is a family, right? Families have parameters established in them. Parameters are relationships that are established within the title block, okay? Okay, so I want to remind you before we actually get going on how to change the title block, how we load title blocks, right? Because maybe you didn't remember, right? There's a couple of different ways we can load title blocks. When I'm creating a new sheet, I right-click on Sheet, New Sheet. Ooh. To load in a new title block, I click on Load, right? And you see me probably always pause because I think it's annotation, and then I think better, and I think, wait a minute, title blocks have their own little subfolder here, right? So while a title block is annotation, they have their own folder down there, okay? So I'm going to click on title block. These are the standard title block sizes that are built into Revit, right? So when you click load here, you see them obviously, okay? So if I want to click on 11 by 17, click, open, right? It's loaded there. I hit OK, and we create an 11 by 17 inch title block here, okay?
Can you go and change that now?
Yes, yep.
One question real quick. So I don't have 24 by 36 as like a standard one.
You have a 22 by 34 though?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, So there's arch size D, which is like exactly 24 by 36, and there's ANSI size D, which is 22 by 34, right? So what you can do is you can create a new title block that's exactly 24 by 36, or you can use the ANSI size D and just call it a 24 by 36 and print it on a 24 by 36 inch piece of paper, right? So that'll give you a little bit of room around the edge, right? If you do it that way. If you print 22 by 34 and you get it gets complicated, right? So you can buy rolls of paper, right, that are 24 or 24 wide, 36 wide, 34 wide, right? You load them into the plotter. For an ANSI size D, you can print, which is 22 by 34, okay? You can print on a 34-inch roll, and the nice thing about a 22 by 34 is the half size, scaled at exactly 50%, is 11 by 17, right? So the 24 by 36 is great. You can print on a 24 or a 36-inch roll, which makes it versatile, right? But the half size is a little bit maybe less standard, so it's 18 by 12 by 18, right? But with that said, you can print a 22 by 34 on a 24 by 36-inch piece of paper. It's to scale, and you just have a little border around it. That was a long explanation for...
So for this assignment where it calls out 24 by 36, just use that 22 by 36.
That's fine. Yeah, that's fine. Yep. Yep.
How we can get like you got like the horizontal type formation? Can you change that one?
Yeah. Yes. So so what you're saying is you like the design of this title block better than the design of maybe this title block.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me start off this discussion by saying part of your assignment is going to be to design your own title block. Okay. And you can do it like this, where you have the drawing area kind of here on the left, and on the right hand side, right, you have what's called the information block over here on the right. Okay. If we look at this information block, let's see how wide. It's probably like 3 to 4 inches. 4 inches, right? We have a 4-inch information block, pretty good standard size. So you don't want your information block to be much, wider than that. You'll also notice that we have somewhat of a little margin around the edge here, 1/2 inch. Okay. So that's so that you have a little bit of border around this title block anyway. Okay. So I don't mind if you want to put the information block over on this side. I don't really mind if you want to put it on the bottom. I would say that typically working professionally, this is a little bit more standard on the 24 by 36 or 22 by 34 inch drawings, right? Just kind of the regular size drawings. If you have a big gigantic set of drawings like 30 by 42, that might be where you would likely see the title block at the bottom a little bit more. Or if you have maybe a small drawing for like an RFI or something, it will be at the bottom, right?
I can't get that title block to show up to load in my drawing.
Which one?
My project.
The 11 by 17 or?
I can't get any of it.
Okay,
See, this is what we're doing, right? We do it really quick.
Yep, click.
Double click it.
I think it loaded. I do think it loaded. So go to Sheets, right click, New Sheet. It's there. So you did a double click and bypassed it asking you some things.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. For the purposes of our class, I don't really care what you do, right? I just want you to alter the title block, and it has to look nice and have maybe like a 1/2 inch border around it and not be, wider than 4 inches. It's kind of my, right? So you can have a title block like this, or you can have it like that new one that I just generated, which I don't remember which one it was now. This one, right? This one is at the bottom. Fine with me. Okay. All right. So there are a couple of different ways that you can go about creating a title block. You can do it you can actually create a title block from scratch. Okay. But by far and away, probably the easier way of creating a title block is to load in a title block that you like, right? Find one that's very close to how you want yours to look, and to alter it, essentially, right? Which is, again, something we do in Revit all the time. You find something that is most similar to the object that you are trying to create, you duplicate it, you rename it, right? You redefine it, and then you use it, essentially. Okay, so I'm going to just go back over actually to, I've got this one here. This is the 11 by 17. I'm going to go back to my floor plan. I'm going to click on my title block. Okay. One thing I want you to notice is that when I click on my title block, under properties here, it shows me what size it is, and it shows me the name of the title block, right? If I use the drop down here, I can change this. Oop, way too small. We don't like that, do we? Control Z, undo. Hopefully. Okay, I can click on that again. We want this 30 by 42. Great. Okay, so you can, once you have loaded in your title blocks, you can, you have a bunch loaded, you can change what size of paper goes on what page, right? All right, so let's talk about editing the title block, and then I'll go back and show you how to create one from scratch, but I really think that you'll probably just end up, which is what I do if I need to create a new title block. I grab one that I like, and I edit it, okay? This is a family. We can edit it in the family editor, right? Which is really similar to those of you that use AutoCAD. It's really similar to the block editor, okay? And families, they function a lot like blocks, right? You have this object. It's a bunch of other, like, a bunch of smaller objects that you draw and you kind of put in a certain design, right? And then you create this object that is all glued together, right? Same idea as a block. Except it has smart parameters. Well, I guess blocks can be attributed. I still feel like Revit's a little smarter though, right? Not AutoCAD. Easier, smarter, I guess I should say. There's no customization. Okay, so to edit the title block, I can click on it one time and you'll notice the Edit Family button pops up here, so I can click on that. Or I can double click on the title block twice quickly. Click, click. And by doing that, it automatically bumps me into the family editor. Okay, and I know that I'm in the family editor because the name of my name of my file up here has changed from whatever it was, like Project 1 RVT Revit file. That's a working Revit file, to 22 by 34 RFA. Right, RFA is a family file. Okay, when I open up this block, right, this family, we'll call it. They're similar. If I hit save while I'm in here, Control S, it will say, hey, wait a minute. This is a standard block in the Autodesk library. Would you really like to edit the original, right? Or do you want to save it with a new name? And you can choose to save over the top of, you know, the one in the library, but more than likely what you're going to want to do is save it with a new name. So we'll give this a new name. So we'll still call it 22 by 34 horizontal, but maybe we put our name after it or whatever you want to name it, right? Edited. Save. Okay, so now this has a new name. It's edited, so that I haven't edited the original, right, or changed the original.
You did that just by hitting save up at the top?
Yes. When I hit save, it says, hey, do you want to save over the top of the original, basically, or do you want to create a new one? And so you just give it a new name. So now I have a new family, okay, and I guess maybe the first thing I'm going to do is kind of edit the design of it, all right? So a few things I want to point out. Number one, if I click on this line, I look up here under the subcategory. This pops up when I click on a line, right? Escape, escape. I click on the line, and it says thin lines, okay? And we haven't gotten to what we call detail lines yet, but this is basically one form of a detail line, all right? And this detail line is just like kind of a dumb line in AutoCAD, right? And so these lines, they have a thickness, and you just draw them like dumb lines, okay, to essentially show the design that you want to show, okay? So if I wanted to, for example, let's just add a few lines, okay? I'm going to come up here to Create. Our lines are located under Create. You'll notice we have a line command. Click. Okay, I have all my drawing tools here available to me. Now I have over here a subcategory, which is what my line is. So I have title block lines, medium, thin, wide, and invisible lines. So I'm going to just it's very simple in here. I'm just going to choose the thickness of line that I want to draw, and I'm going to use it to draw lines in my title block family. So I click on wide lines, right? And I can click on rectangle. And if I wanted to draw a border out here for whatever reason, right, I could draw a border out there, and that would be a line that would be added to my title block. I'm going to zoom in here. I'm going to go to thin lines, TL. Oop. And do you see how when I do TL, I can see the thickness of it, right? So here's a very thick line. I have some medium lines there. I have a thin line on the outer boundary, right? Invisible lines, you're like, why would I need invisible lines? Well, for reference, essentially, right? They will allow you to kind of see a boundary around your title block, but won't print. So if you wanted a title block that didn't have a boundary around the edge of it, right, you could do an invisible line to show you visually on the screen where it's at, but it wouldn't print, okay? Okay, so I'm gonna hover, tab, click, delete, and I'm just gonna kind of go about changing maybe the lines of my title block, okay? Before I do that, I'm going to use some of the other drawing methods or techniques to help me draw this. I'm going to go to Create. You'll notice that we have some dimensions here. So I click on Align Dimension, and I'm just going to maybe pull an outer boundary just to 2'10". Perfect, right? That's 34, right? There we go. Okay. So this is a 22 by 34. And I like that, you know, just to kind of let me know what's going on. I think I'm going to make this outer boundary invisible because I don't really want to have that outer boundary. So I hover, tab, click, it selects all those lines. I drop down, I change it to invisible, right? And this is purely for the design of my title block. This isn't affecting any information on it. This is just visually how you would like yours to appear, right? So if you wanted maybe this area to show up down here, you would start maybe deleting some of this information and drawing it down here, okay? I kind of like mine off to the side here, right? I don't really like it at the bottom, so I'm not going to do that. But if I didn't like maybe this boundary, I'm going to tab and delete it. I'm going to tab, oops, hover, tab once, click, and delete, right? I kind of like maybe that line because it divides it. That's great. But I don't really like all this definition. We'll just get rid of all these lines. And I don't like scale on there, so I'm gonna hit delete, delete, and we never like a timestamp, delete. We don't need people knowing when we print or last saves, none of their business, right? All right, so I've gone, you know, rid of a few lines. If I wanted to bring those lines back, or if I wanted to change the thickness of a line, I would, you know, if I wanted to change this to a really wide line, I would hover, tab, click, and change it to wide, right? Well, I'll leave that there for now. I don't like the Autodesk website being there, so I'm going to click delete, okay? Maybe I don't like having these delete, click delete. I'm just going to delete a lot of this. I'm deleting a whole lot, right? We'll leave one there. Okay, so you're going to design using the lines, you know, your title block. The main thing you're going to really worry about here is the dimensions of it. We want it 22 by 34, or we want it 24 by 36, right, the outer boundary. And we want to make sure the information block is no wider than 4 inches, whether it's on the side or at the bottom, okay? That's what we're looking for dimensionality, okay? Let's just maybe start from the top. And for your title blocks, make them, I mean, I don't want you to get too hung up on the design of it, right? I think make it your own, but don't spend like hours and hours and hours. I tell Aaron's like, nope, I'm gonna customize this thing, right? Okay, there you go, okay. But make it your own, right? I think these are way too tall. I'm like, where is everybody? Okay, there we go. There you guys are. You know, spend some time. Make it not look like an Autodesk product anymore, right? That's maybe my intent with this, is for you to realize that you can edit a family, a title block family, make it not look like an Autodesk product really quickly, okay? And it's just using lines. So you're just going to use lines to draw. If you wanted to add a logo, adding a logo into your title block is really easy, okay? I'm going to go online here. And let's type in something like, it's going to come up with our architecture logo. Oh, look, it's a, what are those things called? Just kidding. Does anybody in here even use a compass? I've got about 8 of them laying around my house. Let's see, let's pick a fun logo. Let's choose that one. We'll just steal somebody's, right? So I'm going to save this image as, and I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to save it on my desktop or wherever you save your stuff, right? And we'll call this logo. Save. I'm going to pick a couple because that one, you never know, may not work. Oh, MHTN.
We're not breaking copyright laws here, are we?
Well, I'm not going to be using it for anything. It's purely for demonstration. So I've just learned from our college lawyer. It's okay. We'll just choose this one. Save image as, desktop. Right, we'll call this logo 2 just in case my other one doesn't work. Pocono Modern. Those are kind of interesting. We could look at logos forever, right? Okay. I'm going to click on the Autodesk logo and I'm going to hit delete. Now, I'm just going to warn you all, we are missing a driver for Revit in this lab. And it makes it so that when you insert a raster image, which is what an image is a raster image reference, right? When you insert a raster image into your title block here and you print from here, sometimes it turns it upside down. Let me text Jameson about that. Hold on. While I'm thinking about it, hold on. Let me just text Jameson about it.
So I need to pick a logo that will look good both right side up and upside down.
There you go. There's a solution right there.
Does it rotate it or does it mirror it?
You know, it flips it upside down. It mirrors it. It doesn't. Well, I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know. Honestly,
We'll find out.
I'm gonna text Jameson so I don't forget. Oh my gosh.
Then I'm a 3. It doesn't make sense.
Okay. I've notified Jameson. All right. So don't get too worried, right? We're gonna print these things, and he's already stressed out. Okay, so let's do that. Just you know, pick one that looks good upside down. Because you'll go to print, and legitimately, like on all of our final projects last semester, everybody on the front page circled it and said, I don't know what happened. Like separately wrote on their plans. I don't know what happened.
Only did it on the front page?
No, it didn't all of them, but they just wrote on the front page. So it's okay. We'll try and get it fixed. But what we're going to do is to get that logo in here, you're going to go up to Insert, and we're going to go to Image right here. Click. I'm going to go to my desktop where my logos were. We'll choose logo here. Click. Open. Click. There it is. And it's big, right? But if I click on it, I get these little grips at the corners, and I can drag it, click and hold and drag it down, make it smaller so that it starts to want to fit. Okay, that line's not working for me anymore. MV move, and I'm going to click and move it to there. We'll make it slightly larger. There we go. Align AL. I'm going to align it with that. And then what I'll do is just grab that and, oh, I can't snap anymore. Close enough. Right? Okay. So I put my logo in there. The idea behind an information block and a title block is to give you information about the project, right? So things that you'll see in an information block will be a logo, contact for the design professionals, right? The architect, the engineers, you know, so when there are problems, you know who to call. There will be room for the project title. There will be room for a stamp on there. There will be a revision schedule here so that if the city has you change things or changes happen during construction, you can note them and, you know, put a date as to when it was revised. You can put the client's name on there, the address of the project so people know where to go, right, to find the project. Project number in-house, whoever's drawing these has a project number for them, right? The sheet name, but basically all the contact information and, you know, project address, you know, that kind of information goes in the information block, okay? These are all designed different ways with the understanding that the outside dimension is set and the information block is not too large, okay? So we put our logo in here. There's a lot of different types of information we put in here. There's the standalone stuff, right? There's the lines that hold the design of the title block. There's this text, right? Here, instead of it being text like this, maybe we could double click on it. And you guys don't know a whole lot about text yet, so do the best you can by copying it around, and we'll talk about it, you know, soon. But if I select this is just like AutoCAD. I'm going to go back a little bit. Click, click very fast. I get into the editing dialog box here, right? And I can type in my name. Or let's make up making it really long. I just clicked to get out of it so that hopefully when I drag this little grip out, it very nicely sits under our logo. When I have my text highlighted like that, you're going to notice some editing tools that pop up here, right? There you go. So here you could say Salt Lake Community College Architecture Department, click, click. I can hit enter. Right, this is, I don't know the zip code, whatever. Right, so we put contact information for us, right, so they can find us when they have an issue. Then below here we'll talk about adding a drawing title, right? But if there's any other sort of text, which titles, project number, that's text. This over here, this is a label, which we'll talk about in a second, okay? Date, text. January 1st, a label. Drawn by, text, drawn by, label. This is text, this is a label, okay? We have text, which is kind of, we call it dumb, right? We type it in, stays the same on every sheet, okay? We have labels, which have those parametric relationships, right? It's smart text, essentially. So that when I type in, you know, this is a kind of a filler, right? It's a sample text. But when I actually type that information in my project, you know, project number is 48. It remembers 48 in the title, or in the title block, and then from sheet to sheet to sheet, it puts 48 in that spot, right?
To know the difference between the ones that have to stay static and the ones that have to change.
They're defined. You define that within that parameter. Yeah, so we have what are called type, we talked about this a little bit, right? Type properties and instance-based properties. So if it is something that is consistent from one sheet to the next, it's going to be a type parameter, and if it's different on each sheet, it's an instance parameter that is defined in there. Okay, so right now I think my outside dimensions are pretty set, so I don't really need that anymore. I'm going to delete that dimension and that one, and I think I don't really want this one in here either, right? We're just kind of like, we're free with our outlines. There we go, we'll get rid of that. Okay. But we do need to, you know, you're going to add text for labels. This stuff right here, line, 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 right? Medium, thin, fine, whatever you want these lines to be, define them. I can grab this and, you know, bring it down just a tiny bit if I wanted to. I feel like this revision, I'm just going to delete it. We don't need it for today. Hover, tab. I know, just that decisive, right? Wow. That's exactly it. I like your attitude, Paul. I'm going to move my client name up here, and just from experience, the sheet names get rather long. So we'll move that up a little bit. I'm going to delete the project name because we'll put that up in a minute, put it somewhere else in a minute. In fact, I'm going to delete the client name. We'll get there, right? Okay, so we somewhat have our title block here, and it looks pretty good. It's how I like it. Okay, I'm going to hit save. And it will save this title block with the new name that I gave it, right? If you hadn't saved it, you made a bunch of changes, it would say, would you like to save this with the same name, right? And you'd essentially be like saving over the top of the original, so you'll likely want to give it a new name. But let's talk about adding labels now, okay? I'm going to show you what this looks like right now in our project, okay? We're gonna load this into our project, and then we're gonna go back in and add some more things to it. Okay, these are things that you can load in and go back. I can edit it a little, save it, load it in, right? And then if I want to make more changes, I can open it back up and go back in and edit it some more. Okay, I can load this in. I can click load into project and close, and well, it's not going to load it into my view, right? But if I go into my sheets now, oops. Not there, here. Okay. If I click on my title block, I come over here, I can pick my edited title block, and it changes it. Okay, and I look at it and I think, yeah, I really like that. That looks pretty good, right? There's no boundary around the edge, but when I hover, do you see that it does give me an inclination of what my boundary is?
Question.
Yep.
So when I'm hovering, I want to get rid of an individual thing. It's trying to hover and get rid of everything.
You are still in your project file. It doesn't look like you're in your family file.
Oh, so I have to be in the family file.
Yeah, so you double click on that title block.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, so normally what I do, so when I hit escape, right, and I'm not hovering over that, you notice the boundary of that goes away, right? I visually, I have to see a boundary, right, at all times. So what I usually will do is I'll leave this outline, like a thick line, and then right before I print, I'll edit the family and make it an invisible line so it doesn't print, right? So I go back and forth between the family, editing it, the whole process really, through the whole process really. But it looks good, you know, I really like my contact information, I like my logo, I like the floor plan thing happening here, this looks all good, but now I think to myself, well, I really need to add a project name in there. Okay, so I'm going to click on it, and I could hit edit family, or I could double click on it quickly, edit family, and I'm back in there and I can edit it, right? So I can load it in, I can preview it, and then I can come back into it and edit it a little bit more, okay? And I think my first round of edits will be to add titles, and it will be to change the design of the lines and to add my logo, right? And then load it in and make sure that I like it. And then my second round of edits will be to add labels and smart information once I somewhat have it defined, okay? Right here under create, I have a label, okay? And here it says it. This label can contain text that does not change, or it can be based on a parameter, so its value can change for each family type or instance, right? So I think an easy way to define what a label is smart text. And smart text that knows that it has to change from page to page, or smart text that knows that it has to stay the same from page to page, okay? We're going to add labels, and for the purposes of this class, right, we're going to add labels that are already predefined for you. I'm not really going to get in a whole lot to adding new ones, right, but we will add predefined labels. I'll show you how to do that. I think I said at the beginning of this class, there are 3 learning curves in Revit, right? There's learning the program and how to draw and how to manage a file, and then there's families, right? So things like title blocks and door and window and all these other families. How do you custom generate things using parameters? How do you model the geometry to make a door family, right? So there's learning to use the program, how to generate families, and how to create parameters in families. That's the second learning curve. And then there's how do we actually professionally function in the software, like best practices, right? And in this class, again, we're just going to get to the general overall how do we function in Revit type stuff, right? You'll pick up a little bit of family editing, not a whole lot, but just know that there is a lot to family editing, right? Okay, so I'm back in my sheet file here, the title block family. Got my logo, got my text, okay? Before we get into the label, let me just show you how to create some quick text. It's really very easy. We'll go into it more in depth. But if you wanted to add some more text, you could always grab this, click on it, CO, copy, click, click, and you can copy text around your title block all day, right? Pretty easy. If I click on it over here in my properties dialog box, you're going to notice there's a size, 330 seconds. If I drop down, I can change that to, if I don't know anything else, to whatever's there, right? So that's one way of really quickly making text, copying it around, changing the size, okay? A second really easy way of making text is just going to create, click on text. You can drop down and choose the type of text you want to use, right? Like 1/8 of an inch. Click over here and just start typing. Enter, type, and you'll notice we have an editor at the top. When you're done, you hit close, right? And that's really as simple as I'm just going to leave it at that, right? It's pretty simple. Click delete.
You don't like scale in your title blocks because all the information tags have scale on them.
Yeah.
I guess it's redundant.
Yeah, it's redundant, and if you put more than one object that has different scales, it says like varies or C something, so it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Yeah. Although I think that my initial, like, I harken back to AutoCAD, where if you put that on there, you have to coordinate with every page. Like, I'm not putting something else in my title block to coordinate when I change my details all the time, so I would just get rid of it. Yeah. All right. Make my life easier, right? So let's add some labels. Labels are the smart text. Okay. All right. I'm going to come up here to create, and labels are right here. If I click on label, okay, my little cursor gets it's a little label icon next to it. And essentially, when I insert a label, it looks like I'm inserting text, right? So because I look over here and it says, oh, it's 1/8 inch. Do I want it 1/8 inch, right? So the first thing I notice is that I get this little label icon next to my cursor. The second thing I notice is that I get what size of text you want this to be, okay? So I will pick a size of text, and these are out of the box basics. So let's do 330 seconds. Okay. Now, in order for me to place my label, I need to click. And the way that these labels function, you click and it puts kind of a placeholder, and then it says, hey, what is this label going to be? So you kind of click to place it, and then you define what that label is going to be, what information that label is going to display. This is like, it's really complicated to explain, but it's kind of really simple just to work through. So we'll just run through it. So I click and it says, hey, wait a minute, what do you want this label to display? And here are the out of the box labels. This is the information that label could potentially display. So things like sheet number, sheet name, issue date, scale, right? And your question is, well, how does it know if it's instance-based or type-based, right? These parameters, these ones that you can see here, have already been defined to be type or instance. So Revit at this point is smart enough to know that the sheet name changes from sheet to sheet to sheet, right? So this sheet name parameter has been defined as an instance-based parameter so that when you type it in on one sheet, it knows the next page is going to be different, okay? And we're not going to get into a lot of like how we add a parameter, right? This is basically where you do it, right? And you create a new parameter and you say what discipline it is and what type of parameter, instance or type-based. Which I think, anyway, never mind. So here, sheet name. Yeah, okay, I already have sheet name. Let's do project, and you'll get used to all of these different pieces of information. Project name, click. Okay. Well, we don't just click on it. Well, yes, we do. Hey, that's not what I wanted to show you. You can just click on it. But what I really wanted to show you, which is a workflow you're going to see through Revit and other instances as well with schedules and different things, is this idea that you have this green arrow that allows you to add the parameter to the label. So you have this list of parameters that are predefined, right, the display information, and then you say, hey, add that to my label, click, okay, so I see the parameter name, which is project name, and I see a sample value, which you could change, right? Okay, and when I'm done, if I only want one piece of information displayed in this label, I would hit OK. So that label now, project name, right there, it's tiny. Let's make it a little bigger. I'm going to hit escape, click. I'm going to change the size of the label. By changing the size of the label, I don't change the content it will display. I just change the size of the text, okay? So I drop down, we'll do 1/4 inch, project name, okay? So we'll do project name right here. I'm going to make it a little bit larger of a text field, so I'm clicking, holding, dragging. I'm going to rotate it. See, I have a little rotate here. I could also go up to RO, rotate, and I could rotate that way, but this is really easy. Okay, I'm going to drag it. I tell you guys not to drag anything, and I drag all over the place, right? I can handle dragging. you guys are still new. Right, so I've got this project name. I can nudge it with my arrows, right? Get it in the right spot. sometimes, you know, and I'm thinking ahead, I'm thinking, well, I've got my project name, right? I'm going to put my project address right below it, maybe the client's name, right? So I don't want to like put it right in the middle because I know there'll be more text below it. But there's my project name. What I don't like about this is that it's all the way over here left justified, right? So if I have my label selected, I can come over here to my properties, and here are some instance-based properties I can change, and they have to do with justification. So is it, you can not have it visible. Do I want it to be vertically, or sorry, not that one, horizontally aligned to the left, the center, right, or the middle, or the right, sorry. There we go, right? So I can change the justification. And even if I have another label that is 1/4 of an inch tall, it doesn't change every instance of that, right? Because it's an instance-based parameter, not a type one, it will only change that specific label to look like that. I can bold it, I believe. Oh, maybe not. That's probably per the label. If I hit edit type, I can bold it and do a bunch of different things in there, okay? So I have my label, looks good. Okay, so now let me show you what that will do. So I'm done with this, I hit Control S, I save. Do you wanna, it already exists, edited, yes, I wanna save over the top of it. I can load into project and close, right? So a lot of this title block design is I make a change, I load it in, I look at it, hey, looks great, I go back and edit it some more. I wanna overwrite the existing version and its parameter values. Click, and you see I have that change made. And lo and behold, it already knows the project name, right? Because I typed it in on another sheet, right? So this says SLCC Technology. Let's give it a long name. We'll just spell out Salt Lake Community College. Right? Okay, right? And you'll notice that that text box that I created, right? It went from here to here. And so Revit automatically wanted to keep that text within that range that I specified in that text box. And so it wrapped the text for me, which is why I wanted to create a long title, right? So it looks pretty good. Okay, so I like that. That seems to be working. It looks visually like in a pretty good spot. Let me add my project address, okay? So click on my, oops, not there. Click on my title block, opens up, okay? Let's add a label that has my project address, okay? So I come up here to label, click, and 3:30 seconds is good. Like I kind of see how now it's starting to snap and align to things. Click. For this label, I want the project address, add it. Okay. I'll rotate it. Okay. Escape. I'm going to click on it, drag it into where I want it to be, like right there maybe. All right, visually I want it to be center. There you go, looks good. It's still kind of tiny, so let's do 1/4 of an inch again. There you go. Okay, one more, let's do another label, create a label, and we will make this one the owner. Let's see. Project, organization name. I think there's another one up here. Let's see. Client name. Okay. We'll leave that one tiny for now. Click. I'm going to come over here and make it center, apply. Right, we're kind of trying to get these in the right spot. They start to align with one another at this point, right? And the text that I have here is really, it's just placeholding, right? So this is not actually what information will be contained there, right? It's just a placeholder because Revit knows that you're going to change the information. So I've added a few things, look really good, right? These are all labels as well. So I'm just going to show you. This label has been created, right? If I want to see what information is contained in this label, I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to pop over here to label. This is only when it's selected. When it's not selected, right, nothing happens. I'm going to click on that, hit edit, and I can see that it says project number. Okay, great. And project number, this is dumb text, it's a title, this is the label, right? Date, so it's a project date likely. Edit, right? Project date. And if I don't like it, I can click on it. You see how I get that little horizontal arrow like I do when I'm defining a wall type, right? And I can hit the red. Take it away. I didn't really want to do that, so I'm going to hit escape. But you could, if you wanted to, right? Take one away. Drawn by, checked by, all that good stuff, right? You can alter the labels. If you haven't sort of gathered already, adding all these labels and getting them perfectly aligned to the exact perfect spot in the universe takes a lot of time. And so that's why I don't like starting things from scratch in Revit, right? We've got all these predefined things in a title block. They may not be exactly where I want them, but it's much easier for me to come in here and grab all this and move it up and down, right, and rotate it, than to go in and redefine everything from scratch, right? Kind of typical Revit. So I come in here, I've got these things created. Okay, I'm going to save it again, Control S. Do you want to save it? Yes. Load into project and close. This is and let me just say, this is a new feature, the good old load into project and close. If you just load into project, it will do the thing. It'll get you to where you want to be. It'll accomplish what you're trying to do. It will load it into the project. Great. But what would happen previous to the load into project and close is that you would open a family, edit it, load it in, go into it, keep working. Oh, there's another family I want to edit. Click, click. Pretty soon you've got 30 families open, right? And you're trying to like sort through your files, and you're too lazy to go back and close all those files out, right? Because Revit has so many like not check boxes, but arrow X's and saves, and you're like, am I saving the right file? I don't know. Anyway, so they put this load into project and close so that you can immediately load it into your project. The family closes out. Okay, so load into project and close, overwrite the values, looks good. Okay, so here we have the owner name. Okay, that's the owner. Enter the address. Okay, when I click on enter the address, it pops up a little text edit here, right? So that you can wrap your text a lot easier. So 4600, we'll do our address here. Not State Street. I was thinking of South City campus. Oh, it must be after 9 o'clock. And maybe we want to add another string of text in there, like well, although you know all of our room names are changing in this building, we're going to be the 3rd floor pretty soon. Yep. So I hit OK, and that looks good. But now I'm like, oh great, you know that label that's the owner is somewhat overlapping there, and I don't really like that, right? So I need to make an edit to this. Click, click. Oop, click, click. And we'll take the client's name and move it all the way down here. Right? Load into project and close. Yes. Yes. Overwrite. And there we go. Now, another thing about the address that is somewhat different from other information that you input into Revit, this is a new input method where you click on the address. Oh, nope, that's not what I wanted. Where you click on the address and it allows you to input it here. Older versions of Revit didn't allow you to do that. It would kind of block you out, and it wouldn't even say anything. It just wouldn't allow you to click on it to change the address. So if you ever work on an older version of Revit, you have to go to Manage, and you have to go to Project Information. And under Project Information, you will be allowed to input the address here. So the newer versions allow you to click on it once, and it pops up with that editing box. Great. But if you work in an older version, then you'll have to come here and you'll have to add all the information in here. Okay, so here we could change whatever we wanted. Okay. So floor plan, that's the name of the sheet title, but there's no title above that. So I'm gonna, click on my title block again, sheet name. I'm going to add some dumb text, and we'll make it 1/8 inch. Center it there, and you know, again, we don't know a whole lot about text, but if you see these options pop up, underline it. Sheet name. Close. All right, so I've got a little title above it that's just plain old text, and this sheet name can kind of, you know, populate itself below that, load into project and close. Yes, yes. Overwrite, and there we go for sheet name. Okay. When we get into text a little bit further, I'll show you how to change the font types, and even now you'll probably be able to honestly do that because text is really easy in Revit, right? A lot easier than AutoCAD a lot of times. Hey David. But you'll be able to change the fonts and different things. But what I'd really like you to do for now, for our next assignment, which I'll change the due date. It seems like you've all read through it. You're going to be adding some sheets, of course. You're going to be adding some views, pulling the views onto sheets, right? And then I want you to alter the title block, right? So make it so that it doesn't look like an Autodesk title block. And what I mean by that is add a logo in there. You know, even make up a fake company name. I always like fake companies. We had some good company names in here. But add a company name, add a fake address, make up a fake client and whatever you want to do, but design your title block so that it works and makes sense for you, right? I would suggest just using one of Revit's predefined title blocks and editing it with a new name, right? If you by chance wanted to create a brand new title block with no associations in it, you can also do that, right? It's going to be more work. To do that, you would go to File, New, and we're going to create a new family. And that family is going to be, okay, this is why, oh, there it is, title block. And you're going to choose the size, right? So 36 by 24, 24 by 18, whatever. And if the size, the 22 by 34 isn't there, all you have to do is alter the outside dimension to make it the right size, right? But this is just a template, so 24 by 36, open, and here's our blank template, right? So there's nothing in here, but you would still come in here, you'd click on labels, right? We want to create a label, and you could add all of your labels, add all of your text, hit save, do whatever you need to do, okay? Any questions so far? Yeah, that's totally fine. Yep. I'm okay with logo. Make them nice logos. I see your logo.
Yeah.
I like your logo.
So I was gonna, when I try to save, it's, doesn't save for me, I don't know.
Give it a new name.
So I just have to give it a new name, it should be okay.
Yeah. I think it probably saved. You just saved over the top of your old one.
Okay, that's all it's asking.
Yep. Okay, hit save. And then what you want to do is load it into your project. So if you don't click load into your project, it'll just sit in space somewhere. It won't actually go into your working file.
Okay, so load and close.
Yep. Now you can click on your title block. The actual title block on your page there, click one time. You see that menu pop up under properties over there to the left. See the drop down at the top? Click, choose your title block. There you go. Easy as that, right?
Nice.
Okay, yep.
Like we have 7, 8 sheets, should we make like for each sheet one PDF or?
Combine them into one. Combine them into one single PDF.
How we gonna?
Okay, so when we're printing these, okay, you have the option to combine multiple selected view sheets into one single file. That's the magical checkbox, okay? Let me give you a little bit of hints on problem solving with, oh, I wonder if, let me see if James, he didn't fix mine. Oh, yes, he did. Yes, good. Okay, I don't think mine was working before, right? So you hit select, you uncheck views, and you'd pick all the sheets. So check all, looks good, hit OK. And when I did that, it says create separate files, right? We don't want separate files. So when I selected my sheets, it toggled from one single file to multiples, right? And here's the thing about Revit. It would toggle this and you wouldn't, because you saw that it was combined, you wouldn't recognize it. You'd hit print and then like you'd have 40 sheets just like, you know, and you have to sit and hit cancel, 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 cancel. They've gotten smart and now, hey, wait a minute, you've chosen to print these singly. Is that actually what you want to do, right? No. You want one file, and then you'll just choose wherever you want it to be saved, like my desktop here. We'll hit setup. We want this to be ArchD or ANSI-D, either one is fine. We want it to be zoom 100% of the size. Do you notice that when I click on zoom, it toggles from center to offset? Another thing, I don't understand why these toggles happen, right? So center, okay. What's that? Yep, center, zoom 100% of the size.
Where did we get to that page? Under setup?
Under setup right here, yep. So this is one area where you want to make sure that it doesn't toggle off of your setting, because when it does toggle, it'll make your sheet like shift off the corner, right? And it maybe won't print the whole thing. So we want those centered, zoomed to 100%, choose your page size, okay. And then combine into one file, okay. Desktop project 1, save. And then this thing will start cycling through all the different pages that need to be printed. Here's one other little finicky thing about, well, maybe it was actually, I'm going to say this, but it might have been version 2017 that did this. I don't know why, but my PDF creator, every time I would go to print a PDF, it'd get hung up. And I'd wait for 5 minutes and nothing would happen. So if that happens to you, you can just X out of it, Control P again. All the settings should stay the same. Hit OK again. Save. Now it's being stubborn.
In the print setup, did you change anything besides paper placement and zoom?
No.
That was it.
Paper placement, zoom. Well, the page size.
Oh.
Yeah, at the top there. Yeah. So it's being stubborn, but if it doesn't print, I give it a couple minutes, and if it doesn't print, just cancel it out and do it again, right? Did yours go through? Yeah? Okay. I don't know, maybe it's my login or something. I don't know. But it hangs up. So if it doesn't work the first time, cancel it out and try again, and it should work. I'm going to do 8 times now, and let's just look. Everything looks good. Browse. I'll put it somewhere else, like Revit. Save. Okay. Okay, now it's going. Now it's going. Anyway, so then it'll take a minute, but it will print every single one of your sheets in sequence, right? Instead of having to use the good old sheet set manager in AutoCAD to get everything to print all at once, right? This will print one combined PDF. One thing I want to remind you, though, you guys are probably getting used to this. Well, we haven't printed a whole lot, I guess, yet, but I was going to say, I don't think we've printed yet, actually, now that I say that out loud. There is not a built-in PDF creator in Revit, right? So if you don't purchase Adobe, then it's not available to you. So you may have to print PDFs here, or work, or somewhere, or purchase the software. It's $20 a month. No purchasing software. Yeah. Yeah. Students get a discount. Anyway.
I think Windows 10 it's coming with that one. Like my computer.
Oh, it does?
Basically, on the Word program when I'm using, I didn't know on the Word I was going to online and I was going like asking like for free PDF, but on the Word you can save it also.
Really?
Word, yeah.
Well, if you can figure it out, then yeah. But I don't know why they don't do, again, it's an Autodesk product. They obviously have a PDF creator in AutoCAD, so I don't understand why they don't have one in Revit. Anyway.
Or even the one in AutoCAD, it's not really good.
It's not that great, yeah.
Unless you have Adobe, then it works faster and better.
Mm-hmm. They're all in cahoots. It's a racket, I think. Right?
I think all you need to have is like Acrobat Reader. You don't need actual like.
Are you sure?
Yeah, because while I'm looking at this computer right here,
We have
Acrobat Reader.
we have the professional version that we have Adobe. We've purchased it.
Yeah, like on my computer, I have the reader, but it doesn't come as an option to print an Adobe PDF because I don't have.
In Revit on this computer?
No, in my home computer.
Oh, on your home computer.
I don't
Okay.
have it. I don't have professional download it.
Pulling just the license from the.
I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because we own it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I had a question about
Yep.
the cover sheet.
Okay. Oh, the cover sheet. Yes.
When you place like a 3D image and it has your tag on it,
Yes.
so you right click on the tag and it says hide in view. Is that proper?
Okay.
to type that?
Let's talk about the cover sheet. So we'll add some more things to our cover sheet. I'm going to right click, new sheet. I'm going to use my title block I created. Okay. And here's my cover sheet, right? I'm going to give it a name. GI, general information 001, right? You can call it cover or whatever, right? Sometimes firms will have a separate title block for their cover sheets that looks a little bit different than their normal title block, which is completely fine, right? And what you want to do, so if you want to add like a 3D view, right, I'd grab my 3D view, drag it over. Oh, it's already somewhere. Drag it over to here, click and place it. There it is, right? If I don't want this view title to show, which is what you're asking, right? You likely can, I never do this, right? Hide in view. Nope, you can't do it that way. What you're going to want to do is you have to create a new view title type, okay? A view title is generated automatically when you create a view like this. This is the view title right here, right?
Drag it off the page.
You cannot drag it off the page. Well, you can if you'd like, but it'll still be there
Well,
when you
yeah,
print.
but I mean, if you're printing and it's off the page.
Your page will expand and you'll have a tiny little title block down in the bottom corner and a view title way at the other end. Don't do that. I'm saving you a lot of headache, trust me. What you want to do,
Seems like the paper's this big, so if I say print that out here, the printer should go, bro.
I feel your
I'm not
pain.
printing that.
I know. No, that's not how it works, but it's an easy fix. So what you want to do is you want to click on the viewport. You want to hit edit type, duplicate, like the same process we followed. This one will be called no view title. And essentially what you're going to do is you're going to turn it off here. So view title, none. And show extension line, none, no. And I'm going to hit OK. And it basically takes it away, right? If I had just clicked on this one and edited that original type, it would have done it for every single view title in the entire set, right? Which we don't want. So we create a new view title. And then if I want to bring it back, I would click on the view, drop down, change to viewport, and there it is. The cover sheet, for now, it's going to be fairly blank. You can create a view of a 3D view, or a copy of a 3D view and add it, right? Eventually you'll have drawing indexes and maps and different things that go on the front of it, but for now it'll just be fairly blank for you guys. What's that?
I just took a picture from the project.
That's okay. Yep, that's good too. I like it. Did you have a question? This view. So the reason it's so small is because it's at a smaller scale. So I can, exactly, yep. I can double click and change the scale, like at a 1/4 inch. Click, click. Drag it where it needs to be. It's a big baby, right? So in architecture, we call it big baby. All right, we're going to save our drawings, right? Okay, that is all. I'm going to stop recording.